Alright, in this video lesson we're going to talk about intervals. So in basic terms, an interval is the distance between two notes. So you can get two notes that are quite close to each other, you can get two notes that are quite a distance. And so that's in basic terms what an interval is. So when we describe an interval, there are two parts to it. There's a number is associated with how many notes apart that interval is, and then there's a quality, so major or minor. So let me just draw some intervals first of all. So we're actually going to start with the C note. It's always a good spot to start, and I'm going to draw 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We usually use semi-breves, nice and easy with intervals. So those aren't intervals, but I'm going to draw 8 intervals. So let me just start with a fairly basic interval. I'm going to go here. So there's an interval. Ignore all the other C's, we're going to get to those in a tick. But just those two notes there, a C, and we should know that is a G note, a C and G. So that is an interval, and it'll sound like this. I'll play it on the guitar. So I'll play the C, and that's a G. So that is an interval. So you can play it separately or together. Okay, so that is what we call, well actually let's work it out. I won't give it away just yet. So the first part of an interval is the number of notes it is. So I'm going to do it first and then I'll explain it. So the first note is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is what we call a fifth. So I'm just going to put a 5 there. Hopefully you can see that, yeah. So when we count, so the number part of an interval is quite simple to work out. All you have to do is count the notes. But the one little trick, and everyone, not everyone, most people get caught up here, is they will count it like maths kind of thing in Ox. So what you need to do, you count the first note as 1. So the difference between maths and music, there's quite an important difference. Maths starts at 0 and music starts at 1. Let me explain what that means. So if we're doing maths and we move 1 unit, we usually go from 0 to 1. So our first movement is from 0 to 1. In music, we don't have 0. So there's quite a few examples where there's no 0, where we actually start on 1. Okay, so 2 examples of that are beats in a bar. So the first note or rest in a bar is going to be on beat 1. There is no beat 0. Okay, so in music, we start at 1 and we move to 2, whereas maths is 0 to 1. And here it is the same with intervals. There is no 0. So when we count this interval, we don't go 1 to the next note. The first note is 1. There is no 0. So and as I said, this trips up everyone. A lot of people, when they first do intervals, will call this a fourth because they're used to going from 0. But it starts at 1. So hopefully that all makes sense. So C is 1. So we count every single line and space until we get to the top note. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where the 5 comes from, okay? I've counted every single line, including the first one, as 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is what we call a fifth. Now I said in the beginning of the video that there's 2 parts. There's quantity and quality. So a fifth is the quantity, and then the quality. So we have different types of intervals. We have, in this particular example in this video, we're just going to talk about 2 different types, which are perfect intervals and major intervals. There are also minor intervals, diminished intervals, other types of intervals, but just today is perfect and major. So I'm just going to use a P for perfect. Okay, so P will stand for perfect, and M, capital M, is is going to stand for major. Now, here's a question for you. Why would we use a capital M and not a lowercase m? The answer is we use a lowercase m for minor, okay? So when we are going to put the letter M up here, and we're going to talk about minor intervals down the track. Just today, it's perfect and major, okay? Capital M, capital P. So a fifth is perfect. I'll come back to why it's perfect later on, but let's just keep moving. Let's do another one, okay? I'm going to do one here. Now, if you want, pause the video and see if you can work out what number interval that is going to be. Is it going to be, it's not going to be a fifth, is it? But see if you can work it out, because I'm about to give the answer. Okay, so let's work it out. Once again, the first note is 1, not 0. So the first note is 1, there's a space there, 2, 3. So that's going to be a third, okay? And the third is major. Once again, I'll come back to why some are major and some are perfect later on, but we'll just keep moving. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill in all of them in order. So let me just do it first and then I'll explain a bit more about it. Because that first one's a little unusual. That one, we've done that one there, there, and there. So what have I added? So I started with a whole list, 8 middle C's. Question, what have I added to those 8 middle C's? What is that there? We've seen that before. That, of course, is the C major scale, okay? So all of these intervals that we start with, of course, we start with the C major scale, right? The easiest scale. So all of these intervals are from the C major scale. We might start at the end and work our way back, because the first one's a little unusual. So let's go to the end. What number is this? Let's work it out. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is 8. Okay? So as you may have guessed, I've just written them in order. Okay? So that's going to be a 7th. That's actually a major 7th. That's going to be a 6th. That's a major 6th. That is we've done the 5th. That's going to be a 4th. That is a perfect 4th. That is a major 2nd. And this is a PU. U stands for unison, which means exactly the same note, but it's a perfect unison. So if you come across that and I ever ask you what that is, we need both words, perfect, unison. But unison just means the exact same note. So and that's a nice easy one to listen to and go, oh, well, that's a unison because it's going to be the same note. I'll talk a little bit more about, in a tick, about what they sound like. But let's just go through these. So we've got perfect unison, a major 2nd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, major 7th, and a perfect 8th. Or sometimes, or probably more often, what is that one referred to? A perfect octave, often referred to as a perfect octave. You can use perfect 8th if you want. So the order of perfect and major, once again, kind of like the order of the chords within a major scale that we did in the previous video. We did the major scale chords and it had a certain order of major and minor chords. It's the same here. This just has the order of which ones are perfect and which ones are major is just an order, and it's the same for any major scale. We could be using B flat major and do the same thing, and the order will be the same. The first unison is always perfect, the second will always be major, major 3rd, perfect 4th, etc. Okay? So, and you'll notice, maybe you've noticed already, but that the order of the chords, there's a bit of a pattern between the order of the chords and then the order of the intervals, in that it's always, the first one is on its own and the next two are the other one, but are, 2 in a row, 2 in a row, 2 in a row. Okay, so here we have perfect, the first unison is perfect, 2nd and 3rd is major, 4th and 5th is perfect, 6th and 7th back to major, perfect. If you think back to the chords, the first chord was major, the 2nd and 3rd chords were minor, the 4th and 5th chords were major. They don't line up in terms of the actual names, but the pattern is the same. It's always 1, 2 of the same, 2 of the same, 2 of the same. So there's a little bit of a pattern there which might help you to remember it. Yeah, so that is intervals. So let me play some of these so you can hear what they sound like. I'll just have to do it on the guitar. So a unison is just going to be the same note. It's not fairly easy to hear. And the reason what they sound like is important is because we will need to be able to listen to some of these intervals without knowing what it is and be able to go, oh yeah, that's a major third, that's a perfect fifth or something like that. Okay, so we will need to be able to tell what these sound like. But let me play them so you can hear what it sounds like. So we've done the unison, a major second. Okay, a major third. And sounds happy. A major, a perfect fifth, perfect fourth. That sounds like that. A perfect fifth. A major sixth. Did I say perfect sixth or major sixth? I can't remember now, but that was a major sixth in case I said the wrong thing. A major seventh. Always sounds a bit sort of clashy, that one. And then a perfect octave or a perfect eighth. Always sounds a bit resolved. So that's an introduction into intervals. I'll be doing a video later on more on intervals, but more from an oral perspective and in terms of how to work out what it sounds like, and in terms of when you play something, what interval is that? There'll be another video which concentrates more on that. But this is just a theoretical introduction to intervals, which is basically the distance between two notes, as you can see.